the review of Francus Ngannou versus Anthony Joshua. Now, I hope you're all nice, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed after getting up so early in the morning. And just a quick one before we get going. The reason I'm actually doing this live card only because of, look, a couple of the bigger fights that were hyped up a bit didn't quite probably live up to that. I was impressed by a couple of fighters on the card, and we'll go through it one by one. But, I mean, what can you say about Anthony Joshua? Just a very defining, definitive knockout of Francus Ngannou. And you could sort of see the look on Tyson Fury's face when that right hand landed. We'll go over it, of course, in full. But, yeah, does this now set up? Are we one fight away from having maybe the top 2 or 3 biggest fight of all time between two non-Americans, by the way, which is another massive part of that as well. So, what a night, as I said. We'll go through it one by one. No particular order. The card started at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, I must admit, I didn't get up at that early, or is it get up early or stay up late? Either way. But what I did, I got up just before Justice Huni's fight, and of course we'll go through that as well. Is the question I probably got is if you're actually out there watching live and you want to comment, is as much as we love these cards, and hats off to the Saudis and His Excellency and whoever puts all this on, and obviously the promoters and the fighters and all that sort of stuff, are the cards actually too long? I know that's probably drawing a long bow. I mean, we've had, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 fights, but it was the rounds. So if you go through them, of course, we had Joshua and Ngannou scheduled for 10. We had, what was it? Not Fury, he didn't fight, of course. Joseph Parker and Zang, 12 rounds. We had Vargas and Ball, 12 rounds. We had Madrimov and Kurbanov, 12 rounds. Not that it went that long, of course, but 12 rounds. We had Chamberlain, Gwynn, 10 rounds. Huni, Lorena, 10 rounds. McGann, Green, 10 rounds. Novitsky and Torres, 8 rounds. And the other one was a 6 and a 4. That's a lot of rounds. So I won't go through it. Well, maybe I will add it up now. So what's that? 36, 46, 56, 66, 76, 84, 94 rounds of boxing. Now, I understand what they do is they obviously start it well on the day, but I think pretty sure this fight came on at about 3:30 in the morning over there. So imagine if you had a few beers, you're at the fights, you're there for the prelims, and all of a sudden you've got 94 rounds of boxing in front of you. So, and you're there till, lucky it ended in the second round. It went to the 2 rounds, but you'd be out of there by 4 o'clock. But look, I really enjoyed the card. Don't get me wrong. I know I always seem like I'm on my soapbox about something, but is the card, or are the cards actually too long? Because I got up for the Huni fight thinking, oh geez, I hope I haven't missed too much. And then after that was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights after that. So I pretty much got a whole card because I was pretty reluctant to pay the $60 or $70 or whatever it was, thinking, oh, maybe I'll only get 2 or 3 fights. But I ended up getting 5 fights. So, anyway, what do you guys think? Rowan's in the chat. How you going, Rowan? What do you got to say there, mate? Great to see there's a couple of yous out there. What do you got there? No, it's not coming up for some reason. Where are we? I can get that up there. It's not actually coming up at the moment. Sorry, Rowan, but I'll call out the comments anyway. But order is restored, says Rowan. He also says cards are way too long. I woke up at 4 a.m. for Justice, and then it dragged out for 7 hours. So much talking, interviews. One point, there was one fight within 2 hours. I thought the same thing, Rowan. I understand the fights finish early sometimes, and they've got to draw it out a little bit. But when you've got so many fights, and I did see the ring walk for Anthony Joshua was supposed to, and Ngannou, of course, we won't forget him, was supposed to be around 9:50 to 10 o'clock this morning. I think it was an hour and a half, an hour and 45 after that. So that's how long this card was. But it wouldn't be so bad if it started like 10 o'clock in the morning here and went, till 6 o'clock at night or whatever it might be. But it's a long, long night. So if you think about it, if you got up at 2 o'clock, what time did it finish? About 11:30 or something, was it? It's a big day of fights, isn't it? But anyway, let's get into the fights. We'll quickly run through them. We'll just go through the results of the prelim fights and get into more discussion with the main fight. So we'll start with the 4-round. The Roman Fury with a 4-round decision over Martin Savard. Can't comment on that because I didn't see it, of course. I was sound asleep. The other one was a 6-rounder. And actually, before I go on, last time, because I didn't get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I got up just in time for Jai Patai's fight, which wasn't too late in the morning. So I had a comment or two about, well, you're not a real boxing fan if you don't get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, okay, that's your opinion, then go for it. I'm happy to be asleep at 3 o'clock in the morning and waiting for the main fights. But anyway, all right, so Zihad Almayoff, I think that's how you pronounce it, with a 6-round decision over Christian Lopez Flores. Then we went to an 8-rounder, Andrei Novitsky, with a 3rd-round stoppage of Juan Torres. And then we started to get into the main fights. Jack McGann, I didn't see it, but I did watch it on highlights later with a really strong 1st-round knockout of Lewis Green. Then I was actually impressed with this guy. Again, I didn't see it. This one I did, yeah. Mark Chamberlain. Very impressive, I thought. He had a 4th-round stoppage of Gavin Gwynn. An interesting story about that, you would have seen it if you watched the telecast, is that the Sheik, or His Excellency, what do I call him? I'm going to call him the Sheik. He wanted Mark Chamberlain on this card. He wasn't supposed to be on it, but apparently he said to the promoters that Chamberlain was one of his favourite fighters and got him on this card, and he delivered with that 4th-round stoppage of Gwynn. So he moved to 14-0. Gwynn dropped to 17-2-1, or is that the new record? Is it? Hang on, 17-3-1 now. Okay, so Chamberlain improves to 15-0. Jules is in the comments there. You like the long cards. Okay, that's cool, especially when the matchups are competitive. The Saudis definitely giving us our money's worth. Yeah, look, yeah, you're 100% right there, Jules, and I'm only probably thinking selfishly because I like my sleep. But you are right. Look, we always complain we don't get big cards, and quality fights as such. We can have big cards, but sometimes the matchups are one-sided. So, yeah, mate, I'm with you. Again, I'm just probably going by the lack of sleep. Brett Turner's in the chat as well. He says it's just the pacing. 30 minutes between the fights is crazy. Yeah, look, and that's probably a really good middle ground there, Brett. It's okay to have these long cards, but the fights have got to be ready to go. If you're on next, you've got to be prepared for that fight to go 1 round, so you're ready to go. And that really comes back to the organisers. Now, maybe, well, I'm assuming with Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren and everyone involved in it, they would have their people running proceedings, I'm assuming. If not, it could be a little bit of inexperience by the Saudis who probably don't know the way shows are supposed to run, and they want that 30 or 40 minute gap in between for the whatever they do in between the fights. I don't know, but you would think that with Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren there, I'll probably learn from this because it's not obviously the first big card over there. So you'd think maybe a bit of feedback from people, not just us watching on TV, but the people actually in the venue. Now, I know a lot of them get there late. I understand that. The celebs and the big names and the big money guys get there late just probably for the last 2 or 3 fights. But there's a lot of people that would have got there early to watch the fights, and maybe you just got to think of them. And my sort of thing, if I was the promoter, would be, okay, if you're on next, maybe not necessarily the main, and even maybe the co-main, maybe they're by a time schedule, especially the main event, of course. It could be okay at this particular time. This is when they walk out, and you work your way backwards. But if you're one of those prelim fights and you're on, then you've got to prepare for a 1st-round knockout in the fight preceding you, and you've given maybe 10 to 15 minutes to be in the ring after that fight ends, and let's go. But anyway, I'm sure they'll improve the cards or the process as they go. All right, into pretty much the main card. So we'll start with Justice Huni, of course. He improved to 9-0 with a very, very hard-fought win over Kevin Lorena. He drops to 30 wins and 2 losses. Larry, first comment there, says, I was very, very impressed with the chin of Justice Huni. He had to earn it, didn't he? I thought he could have used the jab more, but that's easy to say when you're sitting on the couch comfortably. It's very easy to say, Larry, but we're all guilty of it. Why doesn't he do this and why doesn't he do that? And one of the main culprits for me was Zang. But anyway, we'll get to him. But I thought Justice Huni handled the situation very, very well. He came out very, very confident. I thought he was very well balanced throughout the week as well. Very good in the interviews, looked nice and calm. He knew what he was there for, and that's why I've got a lot of faith in Justice Huni. I mean, he's had a lot of amateur fights. He's been around, and I know he's only had the 9 fights, but I thought that the whole week he acted like a fighter in that position should on such a big card. So I was really happy with the way he handled that. Then the fight itself, I thought he boxed really, really well. Lorena come out hard. He landed some really, really good shots early. I was a little bit worried. Nice, clean, fast, and hard punches. And I think he caught Justice a little bit unawares. Well, maybe not unawares, but it was probably a little bit prepared for the onslaught that he was going to get. And I thought Lorena was very good early on. I just thought as the fight went on, Justice found his range. And like a lot of heavyweights have and will do as they fight, Justice Huni struggled with the pace that he sets. This guy fights like a light heavyweight, very, very fast paced, throws a lot of punches, makes his opponent really earn the right to be in there with him and earn winning around. And that's what I really like about Justice. And that's why I think Jai Pataya would be great as a heavyweight as well. But that's why fighters like Usyk have been successful. Back in the day, it was Holyfield, Michael Spinks, very, very successful because they brought that lighter weight division mentality that they used to fight at, be it light heavyweight or cruiserweight, whatever it might be, and they fight at that pace as heavyweights. And that's why they're so hard to beat. And probably no coincidence, that's why Usyk's been so successful at heavyweight. Just that the lateral movement, the hand speed, the amount of punches he throws, it's a little bit too much for these guys, which is why, on another note, I'm backing Usyk to actually beat Tyson Fury. But that's for another day. All right, we've got a couple more comments there. I don't know why I can't bring them up here, guys, but I'll just read them out. I had him winning as well, says Larry. 6-4, close and competitive, but thought he slightly edged it. How on earth he actually stayed up is a mystery. Yeah, my mates and I watched it. I said he had a granite chin. It was a good punch. It was obviously Lorena's a southpaw, and a little bit like the punch we saw on Wednesday night that knocked out Isaiah Seti. It was a hybrid uppercut hook left hand coming from nowhere that he just didn't see and couldn't prepare for. You look at most boxers, the elite boxers that is, and you can see them roll, and they can roll with body, head, uppercut, and they know what's sort of coming. They can read the body language of their opponent. But the punches, especially Seti, he got caught with a punch. It was a hybrid of all different things, but a little bit like that with Huni. Although having said that, he did actually drop the right hand as well. So, look, he did really well, and he did the chicken dance, as we like to say in boxing, but a credit to him. Now, a lot of people might say the opposite to that, Larry, that the fact that he got actually rocked with that left hook might show that maybe he hasn't got a great chin, but it was a very, very good shot. I'm not going to say it was timed beautifully by Lorena, but it landed perfectly time-wise. So hit him in the flush spot, wasn't ready for it, did the chicken dance, but I was really impressed that give or take 25, 30 seconds, whatever it might have been, I thought that Justice Huni handled himself really well, clinched, held, moved, all that sort of stuff, to the point where with 30, 40 seconds to go, beating his chest, saying, let's go. And that's why I've got so much faith in Justice Huni. He's a quality fighter, very much in the mould of his stablemate, Jai Pataya, and we sing his praises enough. But I've got no doubt that Justice Huni is the real deal, and these are the type of fights that will bring him to the level. Lorena, no slouch. This was his 33rd fight was for Lorena, and he'd had the loss to Dubois, I think it was, and didn't go too bad. Of course, didn't get the win, but I thought he was actually okay in that fight. And you need those type of opponents to bring you to the level that you need to be at to compete with the likes of Parker and Zang and all these types of guys. So, all right, we'll get a couple of comments again. Again, guys, I don't know why the comments aren't coming up on screen, but we'll keep going through them. Jules says, Huni showed he had a steel chin in the Latelli fight. Yeah, he got nailed in that one too, didn't he? But I thought he was gone. Yeah, for about a fleeting 2 or 3 seconds, I did think the same there, Jules. But I just thought once he moved and you could see that his legs were quite steady after about 5 seconds, I thought he'd be okay. And I just didn't think Lorena had enough to finish him off. Tried desperately. His corner were screaming at him to up the pace, but after 10 rounds, again, it's easy sitting on the couch to say, why doesn't he go for it? That's the reason. He was spent. And look, full credit to Lorena as well. His mother passed away 2 days before this fight, so it showed a hell of a lot of courage, hell of a lot of grit to get in there and fight Justice Huni and put on such a great performance. So all the best to him going forward as well. But Justice Huni, as I said, I think he's the real deal. Well, here's someone we haven't seen for a while. It is Pommy in Oz. And if you're a football supporter, AFL supporter, mainly a Carlton supporter, and we're all riding high after last night, Pommy, we still haven't recovered. I didn't sleep that much last night because I was riding the wave of the Mighty Blues coming from 8 goals down to win by a point. But anyway, that's a different program. And then obviously getting up early for this show. So no doubt I'll crash a bit later. But Pommy in Oz, make sure you check him out for all your football needs. A very, very astute brain has the Pommy in Oz. What do you got there, mate? Weird to see Ngannou switch it up in the second round. I was going to get to that, mate. But people need to take Joshua seriously. The time with Ben Davison has added a dynamic, was ruthless again. Now, very, very good point there, Pommy, and we'll get to a little bit more on the fight later. But two things you've hit on there, 100%. Well, first of all, if you looked in the change rooms before the fight, warming up with Ben Davison, pretty much let's wait and time the big right hand. We're not just trying to land the right hand. We're trying to punch through and we're trying to nail him with that right hand. So you could see I think he was jabbing, catching, and then following up with a big right hand. And that's pretty much what happened. I know it wasn't exactly to that, but the fact that he was not trying just to score with that right hand, he was trying to put that right hand right through him. So that was the first thing. And on Ben Davison too, Pommy, very, very good trainer. He has worked with a lot of the big names, including Tyson Fury. We're not talking about Tommy Fury. Tyson Fury, he's actually worked with him. I think he's in the first Wilder fight. A very, very good trainer, nice and calm. And I don't think he's got a massive boxing background, Ben, but has just learned through his stages in the game. Probably trained under a lot of very, very good coaches, trained alongside a lot of very good fighters as well. And that's why he is where he is. That's why I've always said that you don't necessarily have to have been an elite fighter yourself. Probably just like you don't have to be an elite football player or soccer player or whatever it might be to be an elite coach if you surround yourself with very, very good coaches and athletes and like-minded people. But what was your other point there? And just actually on that right hand too, it was pretty much like, you know what it reminded me of, especially watching the replay? It's one of those machines with the ball that drops down and you hit it as fast and hard as you can. That's what it reminded me of. The second knockdown third knockdown, sorry. The first one was just very, very well timed. The second one, again, was well timed. And I'll get to that other point about switching there in a sec there, Pommy. But the third knockdown, the final one, it was he's coming out, he's in trouble, and Joshua just lined him up and went straight down the center. It wasn't an overhand right, wasn't an uppercut. It was just a straight right hand, straight down the middle with everything that he had, and no coincidence that Ngannou ended up knocked out cold on the oxygen. And you always worry about that, by the way, and it was good to see Ngannou okay afterwards, but just as best or the best of knockouts that you're going to see. On the other point there, Tommy, 100%. When he switched to southpaw, I'm thinking, oh my God, this is a guy that's having his second professional fight. I understand he's had the MMA and the UFC fights and all that sort of stuff. Hard guy. But at the end of the day, this is not UFC. This is boxing. And the second he switched, and if you've watched this channel a few times, guys, you know I'm always against switching against your natural stance. I know some boxers do it very, very well, but in my opinion, if you're an orthodox fighter, so you lead with your left and your right hand is the strongest, the second you switch stances, you negate yourself between 50 to 75%. It's just the way it works. Very, very, very rare can someone be adept at both stances. So the second he turned, an inexperienced fighter, boxing fighter I'm talking about, the minute he switched, I think, 20, maybe 25 seconds after he switched was when he got nailed with that first right hand. So if you're a boxer out there or even a UFC guy that's thinking about going to boxing, stick to what you know, especially when you're fighting a quality fighter like AJ. Former heavyweight champion of the world, and he'll know you, and especially someone that can punch like Joshua. So the second he turned, I'm thinking this is not going to end well. Didn't expect it to end the way it did, I will say, but I just thought, why negate yourself? He actually had a pretty good first round up until he got nailed. As soon as he switched, you've seen AJ start to come forward and then land the right hand. So just a lesson to everyone out there. Larry says, people, this is about Justice and Lorena. People forget that Lorena was a super difficult opponent. He was one punch from knocking out Dubois. Yep. And he's a very light heavyweight who used to fight at Cruiser. Very difficult fighter. Yeah, good. Excuse me. Good point, Larry. And you look, I think some people have said that Justice should probably look at maybe going down to cruiserweight. He's too small. Well, he weighed 243 pounds. So in the old language, let me get my calculator out. That is 110 kilos. So to go down to cruiserweight, which is what, 200, but he's got to lose 20 kilos. So that's obviously not going to happen. I think he'll be okay. He'll be okay. But you're right there, Larry. Lorena, very, very good in this fight. And Justice Huni just had a little bit too much, that's all. Jules says, would it be possible for Huni to ever fight at Bridger or Cruiser? Well, there you go. I've just answered your question there, Jules. Could he slim down and would he be giving away his natural advantage, i.e. speed and movement? Well, he would. But he'd also be more worried, I think, and focused on losing weight. I mean, this is what you remember is a lot of the Pacific Islander guys, especially the heavyweights, they're just big guys naturally. It's very hard for them to lose weight. And especially someone like Huni, who always looks in very, very good condition, I will say. So for him to drop 20 kilos and be comfortable, I just think he'll be more focused on weight rather than honing his craft and his skills and improving. And also, and you're right, if he went down the cruiserweight, he's probably fighting guys who are probably naturally strong at that weight and aren't wasting away so much to make cruiserweight, and his advantages would be gone. I mean, not that it'll probably happen, but Opataya and Huni, Opataya matches him for work rate, volume of punches, his power. Probably, I think Opataya punches harder than Huni. However, we will see what happens when he gets to heavyweight, whether he can carry the power. So, yeah, good points there, Jules. There's Carl. How you going, mate? G'day, Lyndon. Huni, tough win. Parker, what a competitor. And in AJ, we trust. Did you like the fact, Carl, or was it a little bit odd to you that after the fight, we didn't get even a smile out of AJ? I think, especially after the second Usyk fight, maybe the first Andy, what was his name? The guy that beat him anyway. Sorry, mental blank. But he was animated, especially after that second Usyk fight. Very animated, seemed to be a little bit unstable, whatever he was saying, a little bit unhinged, as they say. I think today it was all just about business, and I'm not going to play the game anymore. I'm just going to get in there, do my job, and cop that. And I really liked it. He looked focused. His last few fights since the Usyk fight, he's looked all business. And more importantly, he's back to the AJ that's actually going out to nail these guys and really, as in the old terms, with bad intentions. And I like it because this is the Joshua that needs to be there to beat a Tyson Fury. I doubt we get a third Usyk fight, but who knows? Well, obviously it makes sense if he beats Fury, doesn't it, that they fight a third time. But I just think he got a little bit polite, I suppose you could maybe say, in a few fights before that, maybe a bit comfortable, maybe he was winning the fights too easily, whatever it might have been. You got the wake-up call against Usyk the first time, and then didn't, even though I think he prepared well for the second fight, didn't obviously get the job done. And I just think he's gone back to those basics, and maybe Ben Davidson's a massive reason for that as well, getting him back to being the AJ that we've known for a long time. He just looks like a different fighter up here since he fought Usyk the second time. And I just think, and that's a massive probably reason why you need the right team behind you and beside you. If you've got a nice, calm, stable team, the right trainer, the right manager, the right nutritionist, the right strength and conditioning coach, all those sorts of things, it creates a very stable team. And we see that even here in Australia with like the likes of Tim Tszyu. Very, very settled team. And I've got a feeling maybe that's the same thing with Joshua now. He's gone through a lot of trainers, and it hasn't quite worked for him. I just get the feeling now he's in a really good place mentally, good team, and I think if we see the AJ with the attitude that he's had in his last 2 or 3 fights, I think he can beat Tyson Fury no problems. Whether he can beat Usyk's another question, but either way, I'm liking the Joshua that we saw tonight, especially the fact that he almost took offense to Ngannou being in there with him, didn't he? Did you notice that? I think he was there to make a point and as a statement, as they say, and I just think he was just switched on and let's go. But anyway, Pommy, Been mental overseas, so good to be back. Yeah, I did see you being overseas, Pommy. It is great to be back, mate. Always look forward to your videos on YouTube. The second best show on YouTube at the moment, mate, behind this show. I'm only joking. Best football show out there anyway. Carl says, I knew AJ would put a masterclass, but damn. Yeah, look, I picked Joshua by stoppage, I will say, but not that type of knockout. I thought he might let Ngannou do his thing early, and I was a little bit worried, I must say. If you look at Ngannou, he throws a check hook really very, very unorthodox. Like, he doesn't sort of step out, doesn't even really step in. He just sort of throws it. It's very quick. And AJ sometimes has a habit of dropping the right hand. So a couple sort of went pretty close early on. I just thought Joshua might just go through the motions a bit for the first 2 or 3 and then turn it on and maybe get him out of there in 7, 8, 9 rounds. But to go out there and do what he did, massive statement for the heavyweight division. Carl also says Parker versus Zang proves triangle theories don't work. Joyce beat Parker. Yep, Zang beat Joyce and Parker beat Zang. Classic case, Carl, and you should know, you follow all these boxing sites. Styles make fights. And I think Joshua said it tonight. Fury said it tonight. Everyone always says it. And it is 100% true. I never, ever, ever go by, well, he beat him and he beat him, so he should beat him. No, doesn't work that way. Not at all. So that's the way I see it anyway. But the Parker-Zang fight, let's just quickly get in there. We'll answer some more questions as you guys go there. But very, very impressed with Joseph Parker, just like I was in his last fight with Deontay Wilder. Boxed very similar wise. Really surprised by Zang, his strategy. Now, I know he's a big guy, southpaw. He's heavyweight, of course. But the fact that he was throwing, 15, maybe 20 punches around, was never going to get the job done against Parker, who's a busy fighter. And it wasn't like Joseph Parker was doing anything out of the ordinary. He was just jumping to the head, jumping to the body, moving to the side, trying not to get too close to Zang, not getting in range of the left hand. I know he got dropped twice, didn't learn the first time. But I just thought he boxed beautifully. And the lack of urgency from Zang's corner really surprised me. It wasn't until the last round where, if you watch the telecast, his corner was saying, you have to knock him out, let's go. Too late by then. The guy's spent. So was it a good thing or a bad thing? I know the commentators touched on it with that early knockdown. Did Zang just think, well, I'll just wait for the one punch to get him out of there? And Parker, on the other hand, said, well, shit, I've got to get myself going if I'm going to get back into this fight. So it proved sort of to go against Zang. I just think it came down to the fact that Zang, big, lumbering type of guy, always relies on those big punches, those 1 or 2 big punches. It succeeded against Joyce, because Joyce is another big, lumbering type of guy as well. Parker's very mobile. He's in, he's out, he's off to the side, doesn't stand in one spot. And I think, again, styles make fights. Even though Joyce beat Parker, I still think Parker's the better fighter. I just think he got worn down in that fight. But just boxed beautifully. And I must say, after 10 rounds, I had it even. I had it 6 rounds to 4 for Parker, but with the 2 knockdowns, I had it even, 94-94, but I thought he won the last 2 rounds. Clearly, hasn't got the... Oh, there it is. The official scorecards were 113-113, so a draw. And the other one was 114, 112, 115, 111. So, yeah, really good performance from Joseph Parker. The issue with Parker now is what happens to him. Where does he go? He's already lost to Joshua, so does Joshua go back and fight him again? The Fury fight's not going to happen. They're best mates. Does the Usyk fight happen? Maybe. Who knows? But, yeah, it's an interesting one for Joseph Parker. The other interesting thing, on a side note, now this fight was for the WBO interim heavyweight title. Now, my question is, why is it at the moment such a thing as an interim WBO title? Now, normally, I've always been under the impression that interim titles are always there. It might be a case of an undisputed champion who's got a couple of defenses lined up that doesn't entail a defense against the number 1 ranked contender, or he's been out injured, or whatever it might be. So to keep the belt sort of active and see who's going to be the next challenger, they bring out the interim belt. But in this case, with the heavyweight version, you've got Usyk and Fury scheduled for May 18 to fight for all the marbles. So why is there an interim belt? The belts are all in play. That's what I don't understand. But anyway, sanctioning bodies, again, I don't even pretend to understand what is going through their heads. So, but yeah, great win by Joseph Parker. Again, I thought he boxed very, very well. Very similar to the Wilder fight. Zang probably was exposed a little bit. I'm not quite sure what his standing is going to be going forward, because unless he fights one of those big lumbering type of heavyweights like himself, I just can't see him beating those types of guys. So we'll see. What do we got there, Pommy? What have we got there, mate? Feel that you are spot on here. The best coaches generally know what it takes because they have struggled and had to work hard. Yep. The naturally gifted generally can't reverse engineer. Yeah, 100%, mate. And that's what I've said all along, is that you look at the guys like Freddie Roach. He was an okay fighter, but more of a club fighter, ESPN Friday night fight type of thing, prelim fighter, the odd main event. But he's turned out to be one of the greatest trainers ever, because when he retired, he surrounded himself with Eddie Futch, trained under him. Eddie Futch, again, one of the greatest trainers of all time, trained Holmes, Spinks, these types of guys. And Freddie Roach trained alongside him, learned as much as he could, and then branched out on his own. And, Freddie Roach is one of many. The great Angelo Dundee wasn't a great fighter. The list is endless anyway, but the moral of the story is surround yourself with the best in the business and you can learn. Anyway, because I've always been a little bit critical, again, on a side note, of some of the this is boxing I'm talking about, not football or anything like that, but boxing coaches who get into the sport and they get these, they don't do the groundwork, is probably what I'm trying to say. They don't get out to the big gyms. They don't try and do what these guys have done and train under good trainers. They just go out on their own and then wonder why they can't sort of make it. Or they do get their hands on a good fighter and haven't really got the ability to take them to the next step. And there's no coincidence why the best trainers in the world always have the best fighters, not just because the fighters are talented, but because they bring out the best in them. But anyway, that's a different story. All right, Larry, best fight for me was Nick Ball versus Vargas. Yeah, we haven't touched on that one yet. I know Vargas' legs would tire in the second half because of him moving down from 130. I was gutted when Nick didn't get the win, but I can live with the draw. I'm with you, Larry. I thought the fight was a draw. Now, the official scorecards were 114, 112 for Vargas, 116, 110 to Ball, which is, again, very, very surprising. And then it was 113, 113 apiece. Now, this was definitely a tale of two fights. The first 6 rounds, I thought Vargas won every round. Completely dominant, I thought. And the thing that was just standing out by the proverbials, it was the height difference and the size difference. Nick Ball, he looks so short compared to Vargas. I thought, there's no way this guy's going to lay a glove on Vargas after 6 rounds. Then it slowly started to turn. Now, one thing I will say, well, first of all, I thought the next 6 rounds, I thought Ball won at least 5 of the 6, so you could argue for the draw. Of course, there was 2 knockdowns, but what I will say, the first knockdown was bullshit. It really was. They were wrestling each other. Ball has slung him to the side, put him off balance, and clipped him, and he's tumbled to the ground. That was not a knockdown. I understand by the nature of the rules that he was hit and went down. The referee's probably, in some respects, sort of caught between a rock and a hard place. But for me, blatantly obvious that he was swung off balance, was on unsteady legs, was clipped, and then felt, I think he was almost even on the way down before he even got clipped. So I just would have thought the referee would have had a little bit of common sense and said, let's call this a slip or throwdown, whatever you might want to call it. And even I thought the second knockdown was questionable as well. I know, again, that he clipped him, but he was almost on the way down as well. That was probably the one would be line Ball, but not the first one. So I think if you take out the knockdowns, I had Vargas winning 7 rounds to 5. Of course, the 2 knockdowns made it a draw. But again, if one of those hadn't been ruled a knockdown, especially that first one, that Vargas would have got the decision. But a really, really good fight. I've got no doubt that they will fight again. Vargas, obviously, he's the champion, retains that WBC featherweight title. Nick Ball, what's he dropped to? 19-1. 19-0-1. Vargas is 36-1-1. So that was a really good fight, I thought. And credit to both boys in this fight. I'm sure we'll get that rematch. Still one other fight we haven't touched on. That's the super welterweight fight, but I'm sure we'll get to that. Larry says, I really hope Vargas and Ball run it back. Both displayed heart, and Vargas showed very legit boxing skills in the first half. I got to admit, I had it 114, 112 Ball. Okay, well, okay. I'm not going to argue with anyone's scorecards, Larry. Actually, the one I will argue with is at John Bay Lim. He had it 116, 110 for Ball. I don't think no matter how you look at that fight, you could have it 10 rounds to 2 for Nick Ball. Barely laid a glove on Vargas for the first 6 rounds, I thought. So the fact he's won 10 out of 12 plus the 2 knockdowns, that is just ridiculous. So actually, sorry, is that right? Yeah. Or was that 116, 110? Oh, no, sorry. It was 8 rounds to 4. Sorry, he had it. 8 rounds to 4 plus the 2 knockdowns. So it was by the 6 points. But anyway, the judges, they all sit at different sides of the ring. Who knows what goes through the head sometimes, I suppose. Carl, former gold medalist to boot. Yeah, this is, which one are you talking about? Carl, is this the 154? No, he wasn't a gold medalist. Zang was a silver medalist. Who's the gold medalist? Hang on, there's a lot of different people. Joshua, let me know, mate. There's a lot of different fighters on this card, so point out the one you're talking about. There's Ed Woodson. How are you, mate? Salute and the chat. Thanks for joining in, mate. Larry also says the way Nick turned that fight was like watching a man climb Everest, but then somehow forgot the flag on the last 100 yards. Absolutely gutted. Yeah, look, as I said, Larry, I got no dramas with it being a draw. I did actually do an Instagram poll as we were sort of going, and I think 50% of you guys thought Ball won, 17% that Vargas won, and 33% thought it was the right decision being a draw. So having said that, only 17% thought Vargas actually did enough to win, which I was quite surprised about, to be honest. Now, there is D-Style Boxing. I'm surprised you're not doing your own telecast at the moment, D-Style. I'm sure you will at some stage. I'm not quite sure what the time is over there, but it's probably, about 10 o'clock at night? So I'm sure you got something coming, so I'll make sure I log on after this. But again, if you're a boxing fan, make sure you subscribe to D-Style Boxing. Second best boxing show on YouTube. Just joking, D-Style. Yes, and that's how you do it, also says D-Style AJ. And this is the thing. And he didn't just go out and outbox Ngannou or even stop him late. I was like, I'm going to come out and let's go. And as I said before, that right hand that knocked him out, the first one was beautifully timed. Second one was, again, beautifully timed, but he come over the top with the little cross between an overhand right and a hook. But that third right hand, holy shit, that was one for the ages, that one. I'm sure we'll see that 100 times in the lead up to his next fight. And yeah, does it come down? D-Style says Fury struggle with the dude. Does that come down a little bit to styles though, D-Style? I mean, you've never seen Tyson Fury really do that to anyone, and maybe he definitely underrated Ngannou. Because this is the other thing with this fight here. And one thing I know a lot of people will be comparing the Fury and the Joshua fights with Ngannou, but I've got a feeling when Fury fought Ngannou, it was a bit of a tune-up fight, a bit of a novelty fight, a money fight. He thought he was just going to go out there and do what he wanted to and got the shock of his life. Joshua knew exactly what he was preparing for. No shortcuts, mentally and physically as well, and went out there and knew exactly what he had in front of him. And no doubt, as we said earlier, with that right hand, he was practicing in training and in the change rooms and the warm-up to it about not trying to land it, just actually trying to knock him out, because they could probably see, this is where the quality trainers come in, of course. They could see that maybe Ngannou was open to that right hand. After he jabbed, he was open to the counter right hand or whatever it might be. But whatever they've planned for has worked. It hurt him, of course, and that last right hand was just the exclamation mark on the end. It's like, cop this, and he punched through him. If you look at the punch carefully, a lot of people punch to land. Not that like the big punches punch through the opponent, not to the opponent. And there's a big difference. Anthony Joshua, and you're talking about a guy, now what did he actually weigh? 252 pounds. Now, in kilos, for us Aussies down here, that is nearly 115 kilograms. And you see the state that he's in physically, punching through someone that is obviously not expecting it because he probably wasn't there mentally. So that is a massive, massive punch. All right, we'll get to a few more comments. Andy Ruiz. Thanks, Carl. Don't know what I was thinking there. I was thinking Andy Cruz for some reason. Andy Ruiz. There you go. Been a long night or early morning, Carl. All right, Pummy. Parker was super mature. It's fair to say he's just a level below Usyk. Yep, Fury, AJ, etc. But I think he is a dangerous fighter for any of them, as he is just on the money. AJ versus Fury, Usyk is a must now. Yeah, no, I agree, Pommy. And, geez, you know your stuff there, Pommy. Do I have to be a little bit worried that we're going to see a Pommy and Oz boxing version? I know you do a lot of other sports on your channel. Maybe I've got to up my game, I think. But no, you're 100% right there, Pommy. I think Parker is just at one half a level below those top three. Obviously, it's Fury, Joshua, and Usyk. I, for myself, just think Usyk is still number one at the moment, but can't wait till May 18. But Parker has shown, of course, Joshua beat him quite easily when they fought, what was that, about 5 or 6 years ago. And the Joyce fight as well. And he had another one. Was it Dillian White? I think was his other one. So he lost to Joe Joyce. Dillian White was that one, yeah. So he lost to Joshua in 18. Lost to Dillian White 4 months later, also in 18. Strung together a few wins and then was stopped by Joyce in 2022. And has come back well. So he's now had 5 wins. And we won't sort of count one of them. That was here in Australia against Django Opalou. But the last two fights, Deontay Wilder and Zhang. These are two of the most feared heavyweights in the world, two of the biggest punchers in heavyweight boxing. And he's beaten them both decisively. Well, the Zhang maybe not so decisive, but still clear-cut, I think. So this guy deserves his world title shot. But it just depends on who it's going to be against. Wizard of Oz says, "G'day, guys. What a beautiful knockout by Joshua. 100% it was, mate. Just an awesome highlight reel knockout." And even though, you can almost tell Joshua was just like, he was so pumped up with adrenaline. I know he didn't show it by expressing it, running around the ring and doing backflips and everything else, but you could just see that pent-up adrenaline that he was inside. So it's just a great win. I'm really happy to see this version of Joshua back. I know I said it earlier, but really happy to see this mindset more. We know he's always in great condition, but the mindset is what sets you apart sometimes in these big fights. Ngannou thought he was just going to get Tyson Fury to box along, like a Tyson Fury type of fight, to box along for 10 rounds. And, here we go. Josh was like, "Nah, mate, now we're going to show you what a real boxer that's switched on is going to can do to you guys." So, and I'm not going to get into the whole MMA versus boxing thing, but this shows that don't underestimate boxing, the skills if you're an MMA fighter. I say it all the time, do not underestimate the value of boxing, with the footwork, the balance, defense, all that sort of stuff. Balance, as I said, like all those different things, don't underestimate it. That's all I say. So maybe take an hour a couple of hours every week away from whatever you do on the mat and the kicks and that sort of stuff, and get in the boxing ring. I'm telling you. All right, and again, we saw that was it last week or 2 weeks before with Volkanovski, was pretty much literally beaten by a boxer. He was beaten by boxing. So there you go. All right, Carl says, "Wizard, knockout of the year contestant for sure." It's got to be up there, mate. Pommy agrees. AJ spent 5 fights looking like he wanted to outbox and prove the people wrong, but he's gone back to the streets. What he lacks in boxing tech, he has abundance in brute power. Exactly, mate. He's going to his strengths, fighting to his strengths. So he's not trying to outbox these guys anymore. And let's face it, the Olympic gold medalist, he should be able to have the skills to compete. So why not go out there and really hone or focus on the power aspect? A lot of these heavyweights aren't in the condition or anywhere near the condition that he is in. Don't worry about trying to outbox these guys now. At this stage of his career, go out and try and hurt these guys. In my opinion, don't think that he outboxes Tyson Fury. I think if he's going to beat Fury, he's going to have to go after him. Fury's not a big puncher, so it's not like he can keep Joshua off him if he doesn't want. I know Tyson likes to lean and hold and clinch and all that sort of stuff, but Joshua, to win that fight, I think, needs to just go in beast mode. And I think that's the only way he beats Fury. If he tries to outbox him over 12 rounds, he's not going to win. All right. Carl says, "Little Tank Zang should be his nickname." Didn't fire a shot, Carl. Did not fire a shot. I don't know, again, even the commentators at one stage were saying, why isn't he moving forward, throwing punches? We've got to remember, this guy, what is he, about 6'7", 6'8", whatever the hell he is? And what did he weigh? He actually weighed only 247. Okay, so I actually thought he would have weighed a little bit more than that. But, so big guy anyway. Not his style, and I understand that, which again is why he's probably been exposed by a more active and busy type of heavyweight. But, he did not really fire a shot when, apart from the first sort of 30 seconds of every round, and then it was pretty much just blood for the rest of the round, wasn't it? So, and that's when, if you listen to the corner of Parker as well, Andy Lee's trainer said first 30 seconds, just be cautious, be wary. He comes out hard, then after 30 seconds, then start to up the pace and win the round, and that's what he pretty much did, in my opinion, 8 of the 12 rounds. Carl says, I thought Nick Ball won the fight. Yeah, I'm not going to argue. I thought a draw was an okay decision, but I still think that Vargas should have won based on one of those knockdowns not being awarded. But having said that, Nick Ball finished the fight really, really well, came home like a steam train. So, yeah, I ended the day, probably a draw was the right call. Team Batman Boxing. Boxing was represented well. Let's go, AJ. Yeah, I'm sure you're riding high tonight, Batman, over there in England. Just a great performance from AJ. And as I said before, just so glad to see him back, the AJ that we know. And are we actually seeing an improved version of AJ, that, like even when he was champion? I know he had a lot of knockouts back in the day, but you got to look at the quality of opposition, all that sort of stuff as well. I think this might be the best version of Joshua we've actually seen in his career. So what do you guys think? Batman says, loved it. Brutal performance, showed the gap in levels. And as our old mate Noonan Boy says, levels. And in this case, this probably is this underlined in capital letters, levels. Joshua showed that Ngannou, as good as he was against Fury, this shows probably where the two are at, I would think, as far as boxers go. Joshua, elite heavyweight. Ngannou, look, tough guy. One thing I will give a lot of credit to the MMA guys, I will say, and I've always said this even when I was promoting, these guys have a different mentality to a lot of boxers. Not all, but a lot. It's just, as Jerry Maguire says, show him in the money and I'll be there. They turn up, they train. Look at his demeanour before the fight. Just another day in the office. You see a lot of boxers tense, nervous, and everything else. MMA fighters just don't get that way. And you look at him in the change rooms, it's just another day in the office. I'm going to walk away with $20 million. I'm going to go out there and try and beat him. And if I don't, I'll go back to the gym and I'll try again. That's the mentality of UFC fighters or MMA fighters. Boxing has a whole different mentality. What if I lose? Oh my God, if I lose, I'm not going to should I retire? Should I delete my social media accounts? MMA guys don't care. They just want to fight. And that's why I love the mentality. And I'm sure Ngannou will be back. Maybe he has to rethink, shit, am I really an elite heavyweight? I think this has got to make him probably go back and ponder where he's at. But I think we'll definitely see him back. And he'll get some other big fights. Can you believe that, though? He's had 2 boxing fights. Tyson Fury, AJ. Just crazy. All right, the representative. What do you got there, mate? Zang versus Parker rematch. I thought Parker said it's in the contract after the fight. You are right there, mate. There is a contract, a stipulation in the contract about a rematch. Zang's got to do things a lot differently. He's going to beat Parker, I think, mate. I just think that Joseph Parker, if anything, might win the rematch even easier if Zang comes with the same game plan. Because you got to think that Parker's felt his power, even though he did get put down twice, by the way. But he's felt his power, seen what he's got. I would think that Parker will actually step it up a little bit more next time and make Zang work even harder. So Zang, in my opinion, has to work on the work rate or he's going to get beaten even easier next time. And Carl says, in AJ, we trust Batman. 100% agree there, mate. Yep. Larry says, Parker probably fighting AJ next. Yeah, that could happen. A rematch, yes. There's a Butter Brand boxing podcast. Carl, great to hear. Yeah, I'm really happy all you guys are actually in the chat today. I didn't expect really anyone to be watching, to be honest. I was just going to tape the review, and I thought, well, if I'm going to tape it, I might as well do it live. So I'm really glad and appreciative that all you guys and girls have tuned in. There's not a lot, but that's okay. At least there's somebody. And there's our old mate Ian Davenport. Woohoo! How are you, mate? Representative says AJ might have found his match with Ben Davison. Yeah, we spoke about it earlier, mate. I agree. I think he's found the guy. I know he tried Robert Garcia and a few others, but I've got no dramas trying to find the right fit for you. And AJ, I've got a feeling, would be a little bit hard work as far as his, outside the ring with maybe his not mental health, but you might be a little bit emotional. And you need the right person to be able to calm you down. Even back in the day, I remember with Mike Tyson, as brutal and destructive as he was, it was a very insecure young guy. And he needed Kevin Rooney in his corner. And you notice back in the day, I know we're getting off topic here, in the ring, wouldn't stare at him and, yell at him or whatever they do, he would get close and would whisper in his ear because he knew what Mike Tyson would respond to. And not to probably to those extents, but similar here. I think the fact that Ben Davidson's nice, calm, collected, doesn't let too much get to him, doesn't say a lot in the lead up either. I think that suits Joshua because you look at Joshua as well, doesn't like to get involved in all the hoo-ha, and that's what I like about him, to be honest. Just turns up for business. If you want to start talking shit to him, he doesn't get involved. He just tells you to calm down and let's just settle in the ring, and that's what I like about him. I've got a feeling that Ben Davidson's very no fuss, low-key. His approach has really not rubbed off on Joshua, but really paired well with Anthony Joshua. So, you're right there, mate. I think you're on the money there that they are a very, very good fit for each other. Similar to also Freddie Roach, Manny Pacquiao. I'm not quite sure we would have got the same, or another trainer might have got the same out of Manny Pacquiao if they were yelling and screaming or whatever. So say a Teddy Atlas type. I'm just picking Teddy Atlas out of here. He's got a distinct way of talking in the corner. I don't think that would work for Anthony Joshua. I don't think it probably would have worked for Manny Pacquiao either. But, yeah, so I think a really, really good fit there, mate. I agree. Joshua Mendoza. Goal. Teach African Americans an African language from boxers to... I don't really understand that, mate, but we'll keep moving on. Larry says, what does Ngannou do now? He didn't just get knocked out. He got completely washed. Barely landed anything. What does that kind of KO do to a fighter like his value, or do a fighter like his value? Can he rebuild or be done? Look, I think at the moment, Larry, he's still got some currency, no doubt about that. I just think he has to go back and reflect, like a lot of fighters do in a loss like this. Go back and reflect that, oh, geez, but I did okay against Tyson Fury. Maybe I'm not where I thought I would be. I got no doubt that after the Fury fight, he would look at Joshua and thought, yeah, I think I can chin this guy. I think I can get him out of there, and just totally underestimated what Joshua had to offer. You've got to remember, former heavyweight champion of the world, Anthony Joshua, Olympic gold medalist, just a quality elite fighter. And, I think he's just got to go back to the drawing board, Larry, and probably see where he's at. I would think for Ngannou, I would go right back. I would peel the banana back and go right back to basic level and try and maybe get 4 or 5 or 3, 4, 5 fights against fighters ranked 20 to 30 or something like that. Just try and get a couple of fights. And then you could see him fight a Joseph Parker or a Zang or one of these types of guys at the right time, and he might get another big fight. Still has currency. So the Fury fight will carry him a little bit further, but I think now you might see there might be a few other heavyweights saying, okay, we can take this guy. Maybe you might see Parker fight him next. Who knows? But definitely has to go back to the drawing board, mate, and just reassess. And maybe, I can't even remember. I think, did Tyson train him for the Fury fight? I think he might have. But get himself a very, very good trainer, and that's the start anyway, and just start from scratch. Sorry for the cynical way to put it, but let's be honest, it's in reality that when you get destroyed like that, it's usually over or close to over. I mean, look at Joyce. Yeah, you're sort of right there, Larry. Yeah, you could be right, but I just got a feeling, again, with the MMA type of aspect, they just seem to be cut from a different cloth, these guys. I just don't think they see a knockout like that as the end of the road, where a boxer, and it might be physically, by the way, because you just see a lot of boxers who have been knocked out badly really struggle to come back, and they get knocked out over and over again. And the mentality changes as well. But the MMA guys tend to be a little bit different, where they just go again and back themselves. So mentally, I think he'll be okay. I really do. It's whether he has the capacity mentally now, or physically, I should say, to actually be able to be chinned again and be able to take it. The only thing I will say about this is he got caught cold early. This is the difference. This is probably something to consider if you're not really a boxing person, or even football where people get knocked out. When you get caught cold early, you can actually recover quite well. First, second, third round, just one of those. And we see it happen a lot. Someone gets chinned very, very early and it's all over. They're the ones you can recover from. It's the ones where you've had 7, 8, 9 rounds of taking punches. Obviously there's the being exhausted and everything else as you go. and then taking all those punches for those amount of rounds, and it's the cumulative effect of those punches, and then you get knocked out badly at the end. They're the fights that do the most damage. So I think he'll be okay physically. I think mentally, again, being an MMA guy, they just got a different mindset to boxers. So I think he'll be okay. But I just think, as I said, he needs to go back to bare basics and start again with a quality trainer, and we'll see. As I said, there'll be plenty of other heavyweights out there that want to fight him. No problem at all. David Jenkins, g'day, mate. Pommy, sport man, mate. I'll leave boxing to you. Thanks, mate. I've got nothing to worry about. But no, it's good to have you on here, mate. What have we got here? Lura Jua. Cheap show. I knew the result when I saw the poster. They just negotiate the result. It was just the logic result after Tyson Fury's match with Ngannou. Yeah, you've probably been a little bit cynical there, Lura Jua, is it? Look, I agree with you. The poster there is probably not the best poster we've seen, but I sort of get where they're going with the video game sort of concept. But no, look, the one thing I will say is this fight was very, very soon after AJ's last fight. What was that, in December? So he's backed up really quick. So maybe they weren't expecting maybe an absolute war. Maybe they thought they had Ngannou covered. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think it was a foregone conclusion, Lura Jua. At the end of the day, you don't have to watch it. You know, I was really looking forward to the entire card. It was a great card of boxing. Not all the fights panned out the way we thought they would excitement-wise, but I got no dramas with it. You got another comment there. It's not a great mystery that Tyson and Joshua never fought. They just couldn't negotiate the result until now. I've got a feeling that the stars are going to align, I think. Just like Mayweather, Pacquiao, I just think these guys will fight at some stage. I'm hoping, even though I think Usyk beats Fury, I actually hope that Fury wins so we get this fight at the end of the year. Imagine this fight. I know afterwards I said it might be the biggest fight of all time. I don't sort of think so. I mean, I'm old school. I like to go back to Ali Fraser and these types of fights, Ali Foreman and these types of fights. But definitely the biggest British fight of all time. Either way, I don't want to get involved in all that debate about what's the biggest fight anyway. The fact that we might get that fight. One thing I will say, though, is that even though Saudi Arabia seemed to be the place to do all these fights, now I know that's where all the money is and everything. Do you agree that it would be an absolute tragedy if Fury and Joshua didn't fight at Wembley Stadium? Would you care? If you're a POM out there watching, would you care if you're an Englishman? I just think this has got 90 to 100,000 people at Wembley Stadium all over it, and maybe can they factor something? Maybe it's more expensive ticket prices to make up the difference. I don't know. One thing I got no doubt about is they'll sell 90 to 100,000 tickets probably in about 2 hours, and most fight fans will pay anything. So is that a bit of a compromise? They might get paid an extra $20 million each by fighting in Saudi Arabia, but maybe they could recoup that $40 million by maybe just going a little bit easy on the undercard, cut a few dollars out of that, but then also making the tickets there absolute premium. The real fight fans will pay it and probably wouldn't have a problem paying maybe an extra 50% of what they would normally pay to see that fight live, and that gets the fight back in England. Because as much as I like the Saudi Arabia thing, as far as what they're doing for boxing, I still want to see fights in Vegas. I still want to see them in England. So I still want to see them, I was starting to see them in Japan as well. I want to see them in New York. I just want to see the big fights all over. And the Saudi fights are great, but just lack a little bit for atmosphere if you ask me. But anyway. David says, I love Parker because he gets every ounce out of himself. He does, mate. Just a great guy too. You just love his whole attitude. Just a really good, down-to-earth type of guy. I really like him. There's the pound for pound king. Welcome to that. And Andy there as well. How are you guys? Is that Lil Penny? Is that a kangaroo emoji there? Welcome to the show, Lil Penny. And again, I don't know why I can't bring the comments on screen. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, we'll soldier on. I think I've just skipped a few comments there, guys. I'll go back. All right, where are we going there? Hang on, I've got a few there. Sorry. All right, so yes, Lil Penny, Canelo Munguia is official. Can't wait for that one. Canelo will beat Munguia like how Cotto beat Margarita at Madison Square Garden. I don't know what it is. I know we're getting way off topic here. It's supposed to be the review of this card, but just on this sort of talk, turned into an unofficial type of talking boxing show. But everyone screaming for Canelo. Again, I know we all want him to fight Benavidez, and everyone's screaming about fighting him and everything else, but they're also saying, why doesn't he fight quality guys like Munguia? Now, the guy's actually agreed to fight Jaime Munguia. Very, very dangerous guy. Undefeated. 43-0 or 44-0, whatever. I think it's 43-0. Why are we complaining about this fight? I think it's a great fight. And I know we all want Benavidez, but this, for me, is the second best fight out there. So I've got no dramas about it whatsoever. I don't know why everyone's getting so bent out of shape. But anyway, let's not focus on that, guys. I want to be here for another couple of hours talking boxing. It was supposed to be just a wrap-up of this. So we'll keep going through the comments there. All right, so Pommy says, fantastic. Rooney, Ben, they all know motivation isn't one size fits all. Yep, some people love being screamed at to become a warrior. Some need the soft approach. The amount of work Ben does mentally is insane. 100% Pommy, and that's what I was saying before. You need to get that right person around you. Not everyone wants to be screamed at and slapped in the face and had water tipped over them, all that sort of stuff. Some fighters just want literally that. They know. Look, you got to remember as well, a little bit like Pommy with the AFL. The best coaches out there, I know some yell and scream and everything else, but the work's done during the week. And in this case with boxing, it's done in the training camp. These guys know what they have to do. And if you've got your charge or charges aligned properly and trained properly and ready to go, you don't need to be screaming at them and yelling at them. I understand that like in boxing in the last couple of rounds, they might need a couple of big rounds to pull it out. But the best trainers don't need to yell and scream. And you look at the trend over the years. The best trainers don't yell and scream. They just don't. So, what have we got there? A little Penny. Some good comments there. Congrats to all the winners, says Andy. AJ did exactly what he was supposed to restore the balance of faith in boxing, but full props to Francis getting those dollars. Yeah, well, that's the other thing, Andy. Full credit to Francus Ngannou. 2 fights, Fury and Joshua. Just crazy. And again, that MMA mentality, just want to fight, just pay me what I'm worthy of, and I'll get in there and fight anyone. And I love that approach. That's one thing, again, I'll say it, that sets the MMA guys apart from boxers. Records to them don't matter. They don't care about records. I think they care about legacy, of course, but they care about money and fighting the best. And some of the most revered fighters, not just MMA, we get a lot of boxers like that, but especially in MMA, most of the legends in MMA, UFC have had multiple losses, and they're revered and legacies built by the fights they are involved in, not necessarily by the results. And I think we have to get back to that a little bit with boxing. Anyway, I'm on my soapbox today. Little Penny says Fury and Usyk will fight for a rematch at the end of the year. Yeah, hopefully there, Penny. What's that? You're going to enrage the MMA fans out there, Penny. Here's what I think of MMA fans. He's got he's got a bra and panties there. Andy, yep, Justice Huni had a scare in that last round. Yep. The whole card in Saudi Arabia took 24 hours from start to finish. Just crazy. And he says, Joseph Parker boxed nicely despite touching the canvas a couple of times. Congrats to JP. Yeah, he fought really, really well. David Jenkins, I think Ngannou will be second-guessing himself going forward. Yeah. That's what it does. It's a great leveler, isn't it, David? You're in the ring under the lights, and no one can help you out there or in there. And but as I said, I think you'll be okay. Little Penny says AJ versus Fury will be the biggest British fight ever. Should have been Khan versus Brook in 2016 or 2017, but Khan waited for 5 to 6 years, just like Mayweather did to Pacquiao. Jules says Fury and AJ definitely fight. It just needs to be undisputed. AJ dropping his belts multiple times has held it up. Yeah, that's a good observation there, Jules. We'll quickly touch on his thoughts on Pacquiao Ben in Saudi Arabia. I don't want to see him fight, Penny, especially against someone like Conor Ben. I really don't want to see it. He didn't look good in his last fight. Now, I know Manny surprised us a lot of times over the years, but 45 years old. Conor Ben's hungry, big, strong, tough, young guy. Yeah, I don't like the fight. I really looks like skill-wise. If Manny Pacquiao even 5-6 years ago turns up, I think he outboxes kind of been quite easy. But the one that we saw, although when was his last fight? Was it 21? I think it might have been. just didn't look good at all. So I hope that we don't see that fight anyway. Jules, thanks. Someone's finally brought it up. Thoughts on Madrimov versus Kurbanov? That's the one fight we haven't gone over on here. I was really impressed with Madrimov, Jules. I thought he fought very, very well. Not so sure that Kurbanov was worthy of a 25-0 record. Madrimov had only had 10 fights. So he improves to 10-0-1 now. Kurbanov's 25-1. Eddie Hearn calling out Tim Tszyu after the fight. Does he give Tim Tszyu a good fight? I think it's hard to say because Kurbanov doesn't fight anything like Tim. I thought he was very standoffish, very passive, had okay defense, but once he started to land some punches, didn't really have a lot of resistance, I didn't think. And Tim Tszyu's certainly not going to stand in front or stand stationary for Madrimov to pile in those bombs. So for me, I think Tim Tszyu's still clear favourite against Madrimov. But it's great that we've got more potential fights. We're all thinking, well, what happens if Tim doesn't fight Crawford, if he doesn't fight Charlo or Spence? Where does he go? I don't see the Canelo fight being on the cards for quite some time, if at all. But who does he fight? Now, all of a sudden, we've got Madrimov. We might have Fondora. We might have either Kolkay or the other Russian, whatever his name was. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they're fighting apparently next month or the month after. So all of a sudden, Tim Tszyu has a clear path now to undisputed 154. And that's awesome. So I think he would have watched this fight with great interest. He's obviously overseas. I'm not quite sure of the time difference over there. But so, I think he would have watched this fight very, very keenly. And that's definitely a fight down the track for Tim Tszyu, I think. I think that'd be a ripper. All right. That old guy who trained Fennick and Costa was good too. What was his name? That was Johnny Lewis, Little Penny, one of the greatest trainers Australia's ever seen. He's in the International Hall of Fame as well. Again, Jeff and Costa, they knew what they had to do. Johnny's strength was in the gym, of course. Good with strategy, fitness, and just really gave them the right mindset in the gym. So when they got in the ring, they knew what they had to do. Then in the ring, very, very calm, to the point where the instructions might have just been, hey, keep doing what you're doing. That's sometimes all it takes. These guys know what they got to do. And I always get a little bit frustrated or have a bit of a laugh when I see trainers in there saying, right, you got to throw a left, right, and then you got to go into the hook, and then you got to throw a right hand, left hook, and then you got to step off and throw an uppercut. And the boxers, let me just give you a bit of and I know, again, we're going way off topic here. I don't know how we've got onto this, but let me just give you a little bit of a take from a boxer's perspective when they go to the corner. Okay, they want to go to the corner. They've got, by the time they sit down, get the mouth guard taken out, and then they've got to get back up and put the mouth guard back in, they might have 40 seconds. And in that time, they've got to have a drink and all that sort of stuff. There's very, very little time. They know what they've got to do. The corner have got, like, as I said, 30 to 40 seconds to get their instructions across, which is why the best trainers keep it as simple as possible. One instruction. That's all most of them need. Manny Pacquiao. Manny, mate, you're moving to your right, you need to move to your left. You're getting tagged when you go to the right, make sure you move to the left. I'm just picking a random thing here, guys. So Manny Pacquiao can sit in his corner and go, yes, boss, I know what you're talking about. Get up and focus. But all these things going on, I can tell you firsthand, the head's spinning. You're looking around and thinking, what the hell is this guy even saying? If you remember what they say at all. And even with things like football, again, getting way off track. You ask some of the most inspirational speeches of all time that they say, some trainers or coaches ranting and raving and carrying on, and they win the game, and afterwards the players can't even remember what they said because they're professional athletes who know what they need to do. So they have faith in each other and themselves. So, that's a good example there, Penny. Johnny Lewis, another one, just a great trainer. All right, I'll answer this one. We're there for the Super Fight in Australia for Monday in green. Yes, I was there for both of them there, little Penny. Asbot, hey, lads, so good to see AJ bringing the big KOs back. Props to Ngannou. He made how much? $20 million apparently, Asbot, and Joshua $50 million. And I'm not sure that even includes percentages of pay-per-view and all that. I just know AJ was getting 50 and Ngannou 20. Not a bad night at the office. Do you reckon that Ngannou in the change rooms, when he's got the ice on the back of the neck or the head, it wouldn't feel too bad? From a guy that's come from the streets to now have $20 million, I'm assuming he might have got maybe 10 or 15 or whatever for the Fury fight as well. not bad for a guy that didn't have much up to about 10 years ago. So, yeah, good on him. And again, full respect to him. I certainly won't take anyone hanging shit on Ngannou or anything like that, because this guy went in there with the best. Gave the first one a really good fight, and then dared to dream against Joshua, come up short. But as they say, it is what it is. Well, Joshua said that after the fight, didn't he? All right. G'day, Steve Bateman. How are you, mate? Welcome to our little impromptu live show here. Didn't mean to do it, by the way, guys. Didn't get up this morning thinking I was going to do a live show. But anyway, what else are you going to do on a 38-degree day here in Victoria? All right, Asbot, not just saying this now because of Joshua's performance, but I always thought an in-form AJ beats Fury. Just reckon AJ is technically superior. Yeah, I'm with you there, Asbot. It's just, I think I said earlier, he's just got to bring a little bit of mongrel to the fight as well. Skill-wise, I still think he matches up very, very well with Fury. But to win the fight, to get him over that final hurdle, I just think he has to bring what he brought tonight, bad intentions. And he had that tonight, and that's the mentality he needs against Fury, I think. And who knows what might have happened if he had that against Usyk. I think his performance, or the way he behaved after the second Usyk fight, probably shows that all wasn't right with Joshua at the time. Not to say he would have beaten Usyk, because I think Usyk, for me, should be ranked number one with the ring belt and all that sort of stuff. But I think the mindset we're seeing from Joshua now is completely different to what we saw in that second Usyk fight. So who knows what might be in store for him down the track. All right, Jules, Kurbanov has a bit of a poor man's Charlo style. Madronov draw was headed for a dominant victory until Soro got cut and Doctor stopped the fight. Impressive. Yeah, what was it there with Kurbanov? So it had... Yeah, okay, yeah, all right. So I just thought Madrimov, look, he did everything he had to do. He, from the word go, he went after Kurbanov, set the scene, took centre ring, and it was only a matter of time. I must admit, I was quite thankful that the fight ended when it did. I didn't realise they're going to have a massive gap in between again, but I thought, well, that's one more down. That's one closer to the top two fights. But, look, I thought he was okay with what he had. He did what he had to do, but I still want to see him in with Tim at some stage. I think it'll be a great fight. Would love to see Tim do that unification, if no Bud or Jamal next, to be honest. Yeah, I'm with you, Andy. Yep, 100%. Ed Woodson. I'd rather just see Zoo sick to business at 154 and forget the bigger names. His stardom is here and growing. Really good point there, Ed. I for one, actually, probably two-part here. I, for one, as a boxing fan, who probably just want the best for Tim overall, would say, let's stay at 154, unify the division, become the top dog, become a superstar, and that's hopefully your destiny. But on the other hand, I know we've got Crawford or maybe Spence or maybe Charlo that he could fight there, but if not, then I can understand he would want to aim for a Canelo type of fight or whatever it might be, because he wants to be great, and so you can't begrudge him, and the money that comes with it. So all that aside, I understand, but I'm with you there, Ed. I'd rather probably at this stage stay at 154 for a couple of years, clean out the division, get a massive name in the States. He's already got a big name as it is, but get even bigger, get those 4 belts, and then maybe you've got the likes of Canelo toward the end of his career saying, okay, let's take on a young lion like Zoo in my last sort of 12 months in the game. So I just don't think there's any rush at this stage to jump up to 160 or 168. I still have it in my gut that the Crawford fight's going to happen. I just, and obviously like everyone out there, I can't wait if it does happen. I've got no doubt that, like, knowing Glenn Jennings and that the wheels will be turning. He'd be trying to get that fight across, the biggest fights across the line for Tim. And that's why I just think at the moment that at least 12 to 18 months at 154 is where it's at for Tim. But how good would it be down the track in another year or two's time that you see him in with Canelo? It would be amazing. Now, that's the fight they could bring down under and get 80 or 90,000 to the MCG, I reckon. All right, Jules, good trainers understand how to best deliver info to their fighter. Some fighters need detail, some just need the basics. Hyder, one of the best in Australia with this. Bill Haney, also very good. Another good example there, Jules. Angelo Hyder. And I've seen his firsthand with the Twins. A very, very good trainer. Don't worry, he'll get up him if he needs to get up him. But on the other hand, doesn't get in the ring most of the times and be in their face. He's on the side, in the rear, and just tells them what they need to hear. And seeing them in training camp with Angelo, when they go in there, they're so well drilled. Not to say other fighters and that aren't either, but from what I've seen, the boys know exactly what they have to do, and Angelo will just reinforce what they've been doing in training. And but make no mistake, if they need a rocket, then he gets right up them. Don't worry about that, and they respond. All right, Francis made 600K plus pay-per-view in his biggest money fight in the UFC for his first UFC title defense. Well, that's just disgraceful, isn't it? Francis made 30 plus million in his 2 boxing fights combined. I'd say Francis definitely made out well. Yeah, well, what's his name in the UFC? Dana, what's his name? The head of the UFC. He's been criticised for not paying his fighters enough, and you've got to wonder if that's true, because you've got to look at the UFC compared to boxing with those big pay-per-views. You've got the same amount of people in the arena, so 15 to 20,000 people. You've got massive numbers on pay-per-view, but the boxers get paid millions and millions, especially the main event, millions and millions of dollars, and the main event of the UFC is getting 1 to 2 million. I know the Conor McGregors of the world got a shitload, but they're anomalies. But overall, to have that is just not. That just goes to show how much money that they're making out of the UFC that the fighters don't see. And that's, as much as he can be critical sometime of boxing, maybe they've got to get their own house in order first. Yes, Andy, subscribe, please. Yes, why not? You're on here, giving up your Saturday afternoon. Why not like and subscribe as well? All right, we're going to keep going for just a little bit, guys, and then I'll have to get off. It's getting a little bit hot in my little studio here. I've got no ventilation or fans or air conditioning in here, so it gets a bit warm, as you can probably tell by my brow. All right, Dave Jenkins. Fury is badly overrated in my book. Just a great tongue. Yeah, he's certainly lost a few fans, hasn't he, David? He's not the beloved Tyson Fury that we all have known over the last few years. Great businessman, though. Yes, he is, 100%. Ed says, I appreciate the legacy his father left us, just a different era in boxing. Zoo would be an even bigger star with the championship status. Yes, 100%, Ed. David says, hopes Tim stays at 154 as well. Yep. And Dana White. Sorry, Ed. I don't know why I've got it's been a long night. I didn't get much sleep last night. So, but Dana White is, I don't know why I kept thinking of Dana Goodson, who's a former boxing trainer here in Australia. But yeah, Dana White. So maybe Dana White, you've got to have a good hard look at yourself. So anyway, so that is the card. So just to recap everything, we won't worry too much about the first prelims, but we had Mark Chamberlain with that 4th round stoppage with Gavin Gwynn, very impressive. We had Justice Huni with that 10-round decision over Kevin Lorena. We had Ray Vargas and Nick Ball fighting to a 12-round draw. We had Joseph Parker with a very impressive 12-round decision over Zili Zang, and Israel Madrimov with a 5th round stoppage of Magomed Kurbanov to win the WBA 154-pound belt. And of course, Anthony Joshua with a devastating 2nd round knockout of Francis Ngannou. So Joshua improves to 28-3, Ngannou drops to 0-2. So not the best record does Francis Ngannou, but he's probably got a lot more respect than a lot of other heavyweights out there. All right, we've got a couple more comments. Fury been up and down like a yo-yo with his antics. I've had enough of his talking, to be honest. Just want to see that undisputed fight to give us one definitive champion. Full props to whoever wins. Well, what are we? Was it start of March, April, May? We're 2 months away, or 2.5 months away from that fight. Are we going to get the fight? I will say Tyson Fury looked in very, very good condition at the fights today. So that shows he's on track. Did you notice too, guys, all the smack talking going on between the Fury and Usyk camps? That Fury was obviously in the first row ringside. Directly behind him was Egis Klimas, the manager of Usyk, the one who called him a coward, and they'd gone back and forth on YouTube or whatever it was. I'm surprised there wasn't a little bit of back and forth between those two guys as well. So it would have been a little bit awkward, I think, sitting there for both of them. But we might call that a day there, guys. We've been going nearly an hour and a half. Can you believe that? Just jumped on for a quick recap, and we've been on here for nearly an hour and a half, an hour and 20 to be exact. So, look, really appreciate, again, everyone giving up an hour and a half of the Saturdays to be on here. I hope I've sort of covered everything that we needed to talk about. If not, feel free to comment down there. And just a quick one, we will be live next Wednesday for the Sam Goodman, Mark Schlieb's pay-per-view here in Australia. If you want to watch from overseas, feel free to join in. But we'll do a live watch along in that. So if you've got nothing else to do and you're watching the fight, or you don't want to get the fight, but you want live updates, then tune in because I'll be on there from about 7 o'clock or 7:30, whatever time it starts anyway. So keep that in mind. But anyway, have a great weekend and we'll catch you next time.